Well, today is going to be a really exciting show because I have a guest that has agreed to come on, and she's over right now outside of London in Essex, England. And this is such a treat for Awakening Divine Wildness because this lady is the Rainbow Shaman. Clare Chatter is from Essex, and her shamanic training is in the Peruvian lineage. She's a Mesa carrier and has received sacred, am I saying that right, Mesa?
Yeah.
Rites, which have been installed and strengthened. Her training, she's done extensive training, and which is also known as the medicine wheel. And it's common to spend at least a year in each direction building a relationship with power. And when we talk about directions, we are referring to the south, the west, the north, and the east. You know, we all have that energy within us. She's had a lifelong initiation process into shamanism, which she feels chose her rather than her choosing it, which will be very interesting to hear about. She's been able to have a dialogue and a language with formless energy, which is worth more than all the things in reality. It's her belief that as a species, we will be awakened to this ability of communicating more and more. Science calls it metaphysics, but Clare likes to call it mind power. You could say it's a conversation with God. And she's going to open up this show with a special prayer for all of the listeners today. Clare, welcome.
Thanks, Mel. It is an absolute honor to be here, so thank you.
You look wonderful in your headdress. I just love it. I just know this is going to be so much fun. So take it away, girl, with your beautiful prayer.
Okay, so let me invite everyone just to come into a place of presence. Bring all your energy into yourself right now. Take a nice deep breath in. Hold it at the top. And out. Just be with yourself for this invocation. Hompi hompi sasha mama. Hompi hompi maiti otorongo. Hompi hompi siwakenti. Hompi hompi hatana pukin. Beautiful Mother Earth. Thank you, Father Sky. Werakocha, wakantanka, inti tai mama kuila, ahawa pichai.
Oh, beautiful. I cannot think of a better day to do this because last night we had a full moon at 12:12 on 12:12.
Yeah.
So this show will be appearing later, but it's such a high energy day, such a powerful day to talk about shamanism. You know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I started my spiritual path, I never heard that word. But in the last 10 years, it keeps coming up, and I keep meeting different shamans, and I've been reading books. So I want to introduce the audience to shamanism and have them understand it and start to embrace the beauty and the power of what a shaman has.
Yes, it is. It's an honorable lineage, and part of the Caro's prophecy was to come down to the mountain and to share this wisdom with the rest of our species, so that it's got to people like me, and they've written permission to certain people to teach their lineage. They don't write books or anything so that it doesn't become misconstrued or taken out of context or learnt in the wrong way. It's very specific so that we hold the sacredness and the honor of the energy. And it works with the 4 directions. So that for me, another way of saying that is that you could have an entirely highly evolved being in one direction that you work with and find a relationship with. It's almost the different personalities of oneness, the different personalities of God. I mean, for me, everything is all one, but when you get into the metaphysical realms, there's three-part beings there as well. That makes sense. But their understanding is that we're all connected to the one.
Yes.
The same as us. We are three-part beings in the physical realm as well.
Now, I mentioned that I had read a book once called The Four Ways about the directions, and that each direction had specific personality traits, had certain powers and gifts that we are meant to bring to civilization. Can you explain what you mean by the four directions?
So in the south, we have Sasha Mama, and she comes in and shows herself to me as a snake. So we often use animals, and if I journey, I will find different animals coming in and different metaphors and symbols, and that's almost me having a dialogue with the metaphysical. So that's how I would understand it, rather than in words, in stories and in symbols, using animals so that they can relate to my human understanding. And it helps during a healing, because depending on which animal comes in, you know what specific theme you're working on. So the south, for instance, is all about shedding the past, shedding old patterns and behaviors. So if snake comes in, you've got some unraveling to do.
Wow.
In the west, we have jaguar, and this is fear-based. So that if jaguar comes in, you know that you're working on a fear-based issue. The north is a hummingbird, and she represents magic and joy. And I guess in the coaching way, you would say finding your life purpose, or your meaning, what brings you life force. And the east is all about perspective and bigger picture, those eagle eyes that can see, eagle and condor that can see from far, far away.
Oh, I love it. So when you're doing a session with a client,
Mm-hmm.
you're obviously working with the four directions. And one of those animals, will come in and as a symbol for you to help that client.
Yes, exactly. So I would work with a mesa. This is a mesa.
Oh, I'm glad you showed that. That's fascinating. Tell us about the mesa and what it means.
It literally translates as table. So this is a bundle. So you fold it up to contain the power and contain the energy. But if somebody came for a session, you open it in a very special, particular way, and it becomes a table. And inside are what we call kuyas, which are stones. And kuya means carrier. So this carries the wisdom and the story. And depending on which kuya is picked, that will also represent one of the directions and a theme of the healing. So it would represent that person's block. If they came with, say, relationship issue, they might pick past life kuya. So that will tell me that it's probably fear-based and they've got past life threads attached to this issue.
How many stones are inside there?
12.
In the mesa.
The inside of mesa. So you have 3 for each direction. You can put other ones in that represent other things as well. You would have an extraction stone, for instance. But yes, 12 to be picked from.
So when you start the session, you open up the mesa and lay it out.
Mm-hmm.
And the fabric of the mesa, is it sacred fabric? Has it been blessed? Is it from a particular place?
Yes. You start with a Mesa Cloth on your very first training, and you can never wash it.
Whoa, why?
So because if you washed it, you would take out all the energy. If you
Okay.
can change your Mesa cloth, but it takes, you would need to wrap it in the other one. It takes a whole process, probably lasting for about 2 weeks before you can exchange them over. But usually, yes, your Mesa cloth is your Mesa cloth, wouldn't be washed. It contains all the energy. And you feed it. So I would put sugar and blessings and offerings inside the Mesa as well. It's like an energetic extension of me. So it needs to be fed and nourished and looked after and prayed on.
How did you pick your cloth?
My original one is inside, actually, and that's a baby blanket, and that was my daughter's baby blanket. So that was very special and held a lot of energy for me as well, about birth and creation and new life. And the fluffy on the outside is, it's really cuddly. It's fluffy. I don't know if you can see. Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, I love the idea of your daughter's baby blanket. What beautiful energy to have contained. And as you said, it's about birthing. Oh my, and wonderful. So you lay it all out, and then does your client get on top of that?
You would have it on a table there.
Mm-hmm.
The couch where they lay to have the healing is a separate couch.
Ah,
Lay them out somewhere else, and they would pick one of the stones.
wonderful. Tell us a little bit more about some of the stones and how they connect to the different directions.
Mm-hmm. So you can have illuminations, which I work with, illumination in the south, and they would have different themes and different stories in the stones as well. So that might be, for instance, a punishment stone or a relationship stone relating to a specific issue. And then in the west, you have past life stones. In the north, you have soul retrieval. And in the east is contract cutting.
Oh, I just love the sound of all of this. I mean, I'm mesmerized by it. It's just beautiful. You've been training how long to do all of this?
So it's at least 4 years, and I've had practitioner insurance for about 3. And I feel my training is forever continuing. I don't know whether I will ever see myself as sort of done. There's so much exploration, and you learn on the job, because you make these connections with the metaphysical, and then they can teach you other things or show you. I guess it's like learning a language. Mm-hmm. Once you know a little bit of it, then you can start to speak a little bit more and a little bit more. And yeah, it's there's so many layers.
Was there a reason why you pursued this? Something specific that inspired you? Or were you always very spiritual and this was just the next step in that journey?
Yes. I got ulcerative colitis, which is an autoimmune disease, when I was 9. And that provoked the spiritual journey for me personally, because I did medication for a certain amount of time and then decided, actually, this isn't for me. There's another way. So I had a healing journey all my life. And I did Indian spiritual practice for a little bit. I did Reiki Masters, and suddenly found myself in shamanism. And it was, yes, I was suddenly there and working. And I thought, well, looked around. How did I get here again? And yes, it was.
You say shaman, and I said shaman. Which is the correct way?
Potato.
Oh, okay. Based on accents or whatever.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I didn't know if I was mispronouncing it all this time. Okay. Now, you also talk about 3 parts of beings that connecting our thought patterns, our energy, for our body to connect to our soul. Can you elaborate a little bit about how you work with those 3 components and what it does for someone.
Yes. So the 3-part being understanding is that we are mind, body, spirit, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And this means that the healing is really interactive. So that the client on the couch really becomes a part of their own healing and really understands it. I don't know everything about all other spiritual modalities, but most of the time, if you went for a spiritual healing, you just lay there and receive. There's not really any participation from the client. Whereas in shamanic healing, and certainly what I do, is we very much work with the mind to get the cognitive shift so that the energy doesn't return, so that your block doesn't return. Because if you didn't tweak the mind as well, you just take the heavy energy off, you're just going to recreate that block again because you've still got the belief installed in the mind. So it's, for me, hit of the whole fruit that you get. It's like counseling and psychotherapy as well as energy healing for the body, so that the client really understands, oh, that was the belief that wasn't serving me. That was the thing that was the problem. And they get the aha shift, and they can really move into a new frequency in it. So people say you can really feel that because there's a relationship to what's going on, and it's understood in the mind, then felt in the body. And the soul part is where we would come in and journey to the other worlds. So I would journey to the metaphysical and have a conversation with their soul or their higher self or whatever that is, and get any insight that needs to be passed down from then that third part to reveal any revelations that's coming through that way. So for me, it's really important to have all of those 3 things, because we are 3-part beings. That why wouldn't you make it thorough and make sure that you're locked in on each section?
Now, I know the listeners, that someone's going to want to know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
Can this be done remotely, or must the client always be in your physical presence and in the presence of the mesa and the stones?
When I first started, I would only do it in person. But since I have been doing online sessions, and I've worked in a particular way where I give my kuyas a number, so that the person then picks a number rather than a stone. And if it's a soul retrieval, I would send an integration journey that they then would have to listen to afterwards. So you have to then lie down and you would take yourself through the journey so that it can be installed. But feedback from distance clients is yes, that they can totally feel it. What I say with their experience matches up. So from my experience, yes, it is totally, energy knows no time and space, and you can do each one remotely. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful, because I know people are probably going to say, I want to do this, and then can it be done this way? That's fascinating. What do you think is the most important aspect of shamanism? If you could sum it up, what would be the number one benefit that someone could get from a session with you?
For me, it's that knowing and understanding, because it's like a self-development session as well, because you have the mind power and the cognitive shifts for the brain. It's like the idea of understanding precedes forgiveness, so that if you're holding on to something, you don't need forgiveness if you have that layer of understanding, and you've then awakened the person or heightened their awareness, evolved their soul, because the mind is understood and been opened. So for me, that's key on what somebody's going to get out of it.
It's really almost a self-realization that comes out of the session.
Yes, or like a self-remembering. It's like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I got a lot of oh, yeahs in here, let me tell you. Most of them I have faced head on now and dealt with, thank God, but there were many that were suppressed for many years. I'll tell you, this has been a 30-year journey for me of clearing all the oh, yes.
Yeah.
Clare, you have on your beautiful website a lovely free resource for the audience. I would love for you to describe it, tell them about it, and how they can get it.
Okay, so on the website I have a 3-part video series, and it explains, for me, 2 major secrets that a powerful shaman will know that society has forgotten. And if you go to the front page of the website, you'll see, you would put in your name, where to send it, and then I would send you your 3-part video series revealing those secrets and insights.
Can you share one secret with us now? Just a little kind of a tidbit so they understand what you're talking about? Without revealing too much. What would you consider a secret?
Certainly one thing that society has forgotten, or when we remember, then we soon forget again, is the interconnectedness of everybody, that oneness.
Yes.
That we are all at the whole, because we come into life and suddenly we're in our bodies again, and we're just so identified with this, with the flesh, with the body. We are right here. And it takes moments of being present, or moments of the work to realize the oneness and go, oh yes, what's going on with them is also a mirror for me. And every time you meet up in groups, it's like you're a mirror of everybody. That's certainly why I love shadow work and doing shadow work alchemy, because you see your brothers and sisters doing the same things as you and alchemizing the same problems, just in a different experience, and it makes it all so so divinely beautiful and interlocked. But that's certainly one of the things that, even if you do know, it's too often forgotten, and it just takes a conscious mind to keep remembering that piece.
And that is such an important lesson, especially in these times. We're seeing such separation here in the States, and there's so much violence daily, you know, people with guns and whatnot. And you've experienced it in England as well, where people are fearful and threatened by one another. They've attached themselves to dangerous ideology that is teaching them hatred. So it is so important that we come back to that fact that we are all one. That is so important.
Yes.
Well, you are just a sheer joy. I love your headdress. I asked you if you'd wear it. You did. It probably is heavy, and I'm a little uncomfortable, but bless you for doing that, because when I first saw you in your headdress, I said, oh God, I have got to connect with this lady. There was something energetic about the photograph that just caught me, and I said, I know she is going to be a wise soul, and you are, my girl, you are. So thank you again. Would you give your website address so that everybody knows exactly how to get you? And I'll also put it in the show notes.
Yes, thank you. I will spell it out for you because it might sound like a bit of a mouthful. I'm Pash Ceremony. So that's www.pashceremony.com.
And will you tell the listeners what PASH means, because it is an acronym for something?
Peruvian Archetype Shamanic Healing.
Yes! Look at you, my dear goddess. You are fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today and for your wisdom. This has really been just such a sheer treat for me. I just love it.
And me, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Blessings to you and everybody listening.
Thank you, dear.